Hello, I'm Christine Schiavone, and our show is Spiritual Exploration. Tonight, we're going to talk about the intuitive process, and I have as my guest to speak about this intuitive process, Josephine Perone. Hi, Josephine. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very enchanted to be here. I'm over the moon. I'm sitting here with Christine Schiavone. I am thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Anyway, though, but we're going to talk about the intuitive process because everybody has a gift, you might as well say. We all have some kind of intuition. Some people have it more than others, I guess, but it's also depending on how you develop it and how you look at it and how mindful you are.
True. It's also, if you're predestined to come into this lifetime to actually be the spiritual medium counselor and develop those gifts, develop those gifts for that intent, the intent that God gave them to you, so that you can teach others, because they're tools and components that we use to actually, create the life that we need, that oneness and that peace, and project things the way that they need to be projected, and really understand our ego, and put things into perspective.
Well, now you have been intuitive. You have had these gifts for a long time. So since childhood.
Yes, but like I suppressed them because I was afraid of them. I had quite a few intercessions with the Blessed Mother Mary, who had told me that in a past life I was Saint Anne of Blessed Saint Anne of Bartholomew, who was best friends with Saint Teresa of Avila. And we were best friends, and we were Spanish, and we were the Carmelite nuns. And she asked me if I wanted to actually open my gifts up and have vocation as a nun, and I said no. I said that's too limiting.
Yeah, right.
I said that's
especially if you go into a cloister or something like that, then you're really limited.
Yeah, exactly. And at the time, the priests did the services, and they were the ones with the power, and we went around opening orphanages and schools and did things like that. And to me, I must have found that very limiting, that I couldn't be able to actually be yourself and be a seer or some kind of the myth, the prophet and all the things that I wanted to do, and it was limiting. So I said no, not at this time. So during that course of events, I used to have some interactions with spirit, and they would come and sit on my bed and talk to me, and I would be frightened. And I would be like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. I didn't have anybody to mentor me. And I come from a family of, Sicilians that, they're Catholic religion, but they were not spiritualists. So there was nobody to actually talk to. My mother would say things like, what are you talking about? Where do you get this stuff from? What kind of books do you read? Things of that nature. The typical, things.
Well, they didn't understand because at that time it wasn't such a popular subject either.
No, but they all have stories of seeing apparitions and feeling their spiritual loved ones that have passed with them. So they do, but it's not until someone in the family comes out with this, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my goodness, I feel so relieved that I could actually tell a story and somebody would believe me. That's how most people are. It's like once you tell them what you do and you tell them a story, they feel very calm and say, oh, can I tell you? I had this occurrence happen to me, and
sometimes they keep it to themselves because they're afraid to talk about it. They're afraid people can think they're crazy or something.
Yeah, well, we all know that in our line of work, crazy crazy and insane are descriptive of absolutely nothing.
That's true.
So, as I was saying, so Mother Mary came to me again when I was 14, and I said, no, I don't want to actually do this. So a couple of years later, I went to work in Manhattan. I worked on Wall Street. I was happy as could be. We were making a lot of money, young kid. And then my husband came along, and it was instantaneous, instantaneous love.
Love at first sight.
Love at first sight. So we got married. We were married, and then many years later, we bought a second house, and we moved into this house that was brand new, and it was on in Pleasant Plains. I'm sorry, Pleasant Plains. I'm always thinking Pleasant Plains. Princess Bay. Princess Bay on the corner, on the edge of Rossville and Huguenot, right there. And we moved into this house, and all of a sudden, it just opened some kind of spiritual vortex. I mean, there was constant hauntings and and I was constantly feeling presences coming up and down the stairs with me. I'd go into the bathroom. You always felt like somebody was watching you. In the evening when you were sleeping, you know, you always felt like somebody was sitting on your chest or sitting on your bed or touching you and things like that. And I would say, you know, honey, do you ever experience that? And he would say, I don't see nothing. I don't feel nothing. And I would say, really? I was like, how could that possibly be? You know, my daughter was 2 and my son was, he must have been about 7. So at some point, after I had a couple of hauntings and I suppressed the gifts again, you know, I would hear voices talking to me and, you know, externally around the house. And
what would they be saying? Things like what?
They would say things like, you belong to me, I love you,
Oh,
you're my
no.
woman. I was like,
no.
uh-oh. I was like, I'm nobody's woman. I was like, I don't know what they're saying. You know, some would like you and some didn't like you.
Yeah,
You know,
I guess
there's some very negative things too. And like I said, Sandy Ground is right there, and that's where one of the stops for the Underground Railroad, and you would see apparitions of colored, you know, colored, did I say colored? That's politically incorrect. African American people around, small children, wearing,
Really?
yeah. And you know, my daughter would see them too, and she would always tell me, Mommy, there's ladies in the back room that are dressed in white dresses, and their hair is flowing, and they wave to me, and I would like, and I knew exactly what she was talking about. I'd say, no, you don't. You don't see anything. I said, come upstairs. You're not allowed downstairs anymore. You know.
Did you convince her, though, that she didn't see anybody?
No.
She knew what she saw.
Yeah. Right. She knew exactly what she saw. The thing was, I had to convince myself that I needed to actually come to the realization I needed to use my gifts for the intent that they were given to me. Mm-hmm. And at the time, you know, after, you know, a year or 2 or 3, I felt very ill. And for about 3 years, you know, the symptoms were fatigue, they were headache, they felt like, you know, it felt like you didn't feel like yourself. It's like your mind was like, it felt like your body had been taken over. You had aches and pains. I mean, there was no reason for this. You go to the doctor, everything is fine.
So what do you think it was then?
Well, it was the spirits, you know, draining my energy, you know, because you're a source for them.
So you had a lot of negative spirits around you then. You had to get rid of.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, at the time, you know, I was concerned. Once I did realize it at some point, and I said, my goodness, what am I going to do? So I went to church, and I prayed to the Christ. I said, please, I said, help me myself, and help me help my family. Because if I'm experiencing this, suppose my children are experiencing this. But it turns out that my children were born to me because they're extremely gifted. And Mother Mary came to me again and said, you have to use your gifts now. You know, along with my angels. She said,
no more putting it off.
Right. She's like, because you have to harness your gifts and learn how to, you know, use them for the intent that God gave them to you, to bless, heal, counsel, support, be a healer, be intuitive, and be an intercessor for the Father dwelleth in you. And finally I said, fine, okay, you know, because I was more concerned about my children, because they know how to get to you. It's always through children.
Yeah.
So I had some really severe hauntings, I mean traumatic, where orbs would come up the stairs and hiss in my ear, and my pajama pants are flapping in the wind.
Now, did you think about moving
and
at that
screaming.
point or what?
I did, and my husband said, where are you going to go? We're not leaving. And I said, uh-oh.
He wasn't
okay.
experiencing what you were experiencing.
No, he wasn't experiencing it, but then my daughter started to experience it, because she's also the clairvoyant. And so, as a matter of fact, so, you know, I was completely surrounded by them. And my husband couldn't see what I see. I had all my group of friends and my family, they all kept saying, what kind of medication are you on? And, you know, it really hurt your feelings because there was nobody to understand. I've never been to a psychic. I had an aversion to the whole process. We were Catholic, we were devout. You know, it says, you know, don't do this and don't do that, and we're not going to do that. We're going to bless people and, you know, send love and goodwill to everyone. Okay, so that's what I did. So finally, after being surrounded in a circle, crying in despair because I didn't know how to actually, who was going to understand my problem and who was going to help me. And then I had this exterminator who I knew for about 8 years or so, and you know, we would just engage in idle chit chat when he came in, and he, you know, talk about certain things. And downstairs, you know, you're looking at a full, nice, beautiful, you know, downstairs, but the basement, it's not creepy, it's not old, it's brand new, everything is. And I would hear knocking and pounding, and you know, sounds coming out from here, from there. And I said to Tom, you know, I said to Tom, I said, when you go downstairs, do you experience anything? I was like, do you feel like a heaviness, an oppressive energy or anything? So he comes up the stairs and he goes, are you a psychic? I said, no, I'm not. I said, not technically. And from that point on, we started having conversations, and he handed me my mentor's card. I'm very tenacious, so it took me like 4 weeks. I said, I don't know this woman, I don't know, you know, what is she gonna do for me? Then I heard an angel say to me, pick up the phone and call the woman. I said, okay. So the angels were there, you know, their intercessions were always there. You know, a lot of things happened. I would see spirits, but I would see angels as well, and they would try and communicate with me. But at that point, you're not really sure how to discern all those emotions, those feelings, the people, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling. So I picked up the phone and called my mentor, and I said, I don't know who you are. I said, but apparently the angels are telling me that you're the one that's going to help me. And so I went there, and right away she picked up on this. You got a heightened sense of hearing. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And she was right on the money. And from that point on, you know, she had to work through my ego and my resistance, because I was quite resistant. So we spent a long time doing that, and you know, she guided that gift along. You know, she gave me companionship, she gave me understanding. She was there on the other end of the phone when things would go haywire, and you would, you know, and she was like, don't worry, do this, 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 and that, and she guided me through it. And at that point, my daughter's gift was exploding all over the place, and she was seeing apparitions, and she wanted to sleep in her room. And
how old was she at this point?
I think that she was maybe about 9 or 10.
Really?
Yeah. And yeah, she was having, you know, she was under psychic attack, so they call it. And I was trying to help her and help myself and do all these things, and I had to watch everybody's, you know, discern everybody's dreams, what was going on. You know.
You do that too? You can tell dreams?
Yeah, I can interpret, you know, interpret the dreams. Remember, it's almost like what I call myself is the enlightener. We're here to furnish with spiritual understanding, and you're here to be able to interpret situations so that you can have the clarity and the profound comprehension, so that you can help other people. So
that they can maybe get through their problems and stuff.
Right, get through their problems, because sometimes their intuition comes in through dreams, or you know, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But, you know, once you put your hands over that person's heart, the angels tell you what the main conflict is, and that's what you start. That's what you start from when people come to you and come to see you. So, you know, so from that point on, she was like, people are the catalyst for change. And then we started doing this whole counseling thing, and, you know, people, they're agonizing problems. I was like, are you kidding me? I got to help them, you know. I was like, these people have tremendous problems. And she said, don't worry about it. She's like, you have the gift. She's like, they're going to tell you what to do. All you got to do is, you know, relinquish your ego, your premises, your judgments, and the information will come through, and that's what you need to actually give to that person. Besides, you know, being hyper vigilant over their issues, and you know, there's so much involved. I took it, you know, you're held accountable to the highest power. I was like, we're working with people that have all these problems, and they're afflicted, and they have, you know, they have spirits attachments to them. That's one of my specialties, is actually seeing, you know, the malevolent and the spirits that are with people, and how it influences their life. That's what I do.
And be able to tell them which ones are good and which ones aren't?
Yeah, well, that's what the gifts of discernment for. You have so many experiences. I did like thousands of pro bono assignments to you know, to actually work through all those problems. Because then, you know what, you end up having all the pitfalls of the healer, which, you know, the mind, the will, you know, your ego goes berserk, because all of a sudden you have all these tremendous gifts, and you're like, well, you know, I must have been an angel that fell out of heaven or something. You know? I was like, don't you talk to me like that.
So
but
now
you
you were fighting the gifts,
Yeah.
But then when you stopped fighting, you started developing them.
You start developing them, right? The clairvoyancy, the clairaudience comes through. You know, the blessings, when you speak the spoken blessings, you become the blessings. Meaning, you know, we have someone in front of you that, you know, suppose they're unable to even become pregnant, let's say. And, you know, I discern what the problem is, and it could be that the husband has incarnated spirits with him, that he did a couple of really bad things, and he's carrying them with him. So, you know, you'll get rid of that, and then all of a sudden she'll become pregnant after 10 years.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's you know, we know the Father dwelleth in you, he do the work. It's like your intercession and your intent is always put into the prayers for these people, because they're coming to see you. They automatically start to feel better the second they come into your energy field.
What is your advice for somebody who is feeling like they have gifts but don't know what to do with them?
Well, that's what we're here to actually you know, we're here. I'm here because I myself had to learn from a small child what their egos is telling them and how to actually transmute them. You know, to learn the gift, you know, you're going to have to, there's a lot of things that need to be done. You know, we have to learn how to harness the gifts. We have to understand what oneness is. We have to be, you know, devout in our faith and strong sense of faith, and strengthen your resolve and understand the power of the prayer and your intent. And you know, little by little work out their gifts, and that opens up their gifts and they become intuitive. And it's also having confidence in what they're hearing. I always tell them, if it's loud and negative, it's the ego, and if it's you know, if you still your mind in meditation, that's a small still voice that you hear, and that's your angels talking to you. You know, through Christ. I mean, you know, and then they'll start to have more and more frequent encounters with you know, when they still their mind. It's always an effort of the will. You know, a lot of people say, my gut feeling, my gut feeling. The gut feeling is your divine connection to your higher self in you know, in God's realm. You know.
And that's where the gut feeling comes from, your connection to being able to be intuitive.
Right. Exactly. That's the clairvoyancy, the clairaudience, the clairtangence. You know, there's so many. The precognize and the retrocognize is also a very important part. You know, their past lives. Sometimes they have issues that were not worked out in their past life that actually, in their current life, are giving them problems. You know, say suppose you had an oppressive husband in a past life, and you never, you know, in that lifetime, you were never able to. You were always afraid, and you were never able to escape from that marriage. So therefore, you broke in spirit. He crushed your spirits, and he broke you down, and you died unhappy. And you know, you come back into this lifetime, and you have to spiritually evolve, and you have another oppressive spouse. And you know, for them, they come in front of you, and then you give them strength and resolve to actually work through those problems. And then you've healed them. You bring back a fragmentation back to them. And they, you know, they start to feel better, and they become whole, and they, you know, not worry about all the other problems that go along with it, you know, because they're always worried about the finance, and what if he hurts me, and what's that? It's like, no, he's gonna. It's like, no, they'll say things like, oh, he said if I actually do this, the kids won't want to see me, and he's gonna put all my stuff in a trash bag and throw it on the lawn. I said, that's exactly what's gonna happen to him. And then they'll call me back and say, you know what? He attacked me, and I called the police, and they had him arrested, and I got a court order of protection. And I took his stuff and put it in a bag and threw it on the lawn. I said, see? You know, that kind.
So you think that when people try to do something in your life that's going to cause problems, that's what they end up calling upon themselves?
Yes, you're strengthening their resolve.
What goes around comes around.
Right. They need to spiritually evolve as well. That whatever their primary substance is that they came into this lifetime to do, to work out issues. It could have been to lose a child at an early age, to understand what it felt like to have unconditional love for a child who came into this lifetime with an illness that was short-lived, you know, and they lived a very short life, maybe a year or two, and you know, you carry them in your heart, and they're always with you. But that was something you needed to work out, that unconditional love that you had for that child, you know, and that brings them a healing. You know, and then they might become advocates for SIDS or whatever illness that child died of.
Well, that's what happens a lot.
Yeah, and that's the whole purpose, that helps them heal.
We have a friend who wants to ask a question, Michael.
Hi, Josephine.
Hi.
I just saw a recent television show with Harry Houdini, and
Oh, I saw that as well.
there was
did
a
too.
segment there where he tried to expose a lot of psychics and mediums. Could you comment on that first?
I actually saw that, and
Okay.
I was, you know, being a spiritual intuitive, I personally don't call myself a psychic medium because everyone associated that as being guile. Because back in the day, they put the stigmatism on it because there were so many charlatans out there that took complete, they took the opportunities and misused their gifts, if they even had any gifts, to actually take advantage of people because of their vulnerabilities. And that saddened me that at that time that they would do that. They would sit in the circle in the seance, and they would have strings pulling the tambourine, and that saddened me because there are really people in this world that are here. We call them enlighteners or sentinels of light, which mean the watchmen of the light, or the daughters of light, the sons of light, Christ, that really are incarnate here as God's messengers. That's why we call them the enlighteners, the messengers and the healers of God.
All right. Do you think that's still going on today? Psychics and mediums trying to get money from people that.
Of course.
Yeah.
There are scam
Yeah.
artists
Scam.
everywhere.
There are.
right.
But you have to remember, all the gifts that are genuine can never be used to deceive. Father will stop you, God will stop you in your tracks. He will find a way to expose you, and you'll be incarcerated for that action, and other things will transpire that will actually stop them.
Okay. And also, have you ever received money or gifts from anything that you've done related to this?
Well, I'll tell you, it took me 5 years of, doing a lot of work and a lot of pro bono assignments. People come to see me in session, and then doing the follow-ups, and, believe me, I did have an issue with it because
But you do get money from this.
Only if God is the one who puts the person in front of me. If they want to put a stipend in front of me, that's great. If they can't afford it, I'm still going to help them,
Okay.
no matter what.
But you do take money, right?
Very rare occasions, yeah.
Okay. And one other thing, I'm not trying to do it.
Well,
Do ever people look at you and do you ever get the feeling like people look at, oh, she's crazy, she's nuts? You ever get that feeling, oh, she's a psycho or anything like that? When you tell them that you're psychic.
Well, like I said, I don't use that word. What I
Okay,
do is
you're
spiritual
medium.
works of mercy.
Okay, so
Right.
when you tell people like that, do you ever get that feeling that people are looking at you?
Well, it's true, but you got to remember, those who seek my assistance and help, they're brought to me by God because they called to Him, and He answered them by putting someone in front of them who could help them.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Right.
Thank you.
We're talking about receiving money. I mean, you do have to, get paid
Well,
for
you know
your
what?
time.
You get paid for your time, absolutely.
I mean, you're
See,
putting
but
your
because
time
I was-
into it and your
Right.
talent, and you have to live. You have to eat. You have to have a roof over your head.
True.
And so I mean, as long as people, I mean, there are people out there that are charging exorbitant amounts of
Right.
money, $300 or $400 for a 20 or 30-minute session, and that's ridiculous.
Well, that's very true.
No matter what your gifts are, I mean, that's getting a little carried away. But I believe that everybody should have something. Now, I am a Reiki master, and I really don't like taking money for it either. I mean, most of the time, I just lay hands on people, give them a healing, and I say, don't worry about it. Jesus didn't ask for money. You know what I mean?
Right. Like I said, when God allots it, it's fine. You have to remember, I had a mentor for 5 years that I sat in front of every week to help me help other people. And I had to lay your ego down and value what she told me, or else it wouldn't be valued. So, imagine how much conflict I was in by believing that I had to sit in front of her and lay my ego down and pay her every week, every session that I was with. And then I go and do 1,000 pro bono assignments and hold these people's hands and constantly on the phone and having them sit in front of me and assisting them and using your gifts for them, and there's no compensation. But there's the only difference I would say is I work as a bus matron because those children need to be healed in my energy field as well. They have spirit attachments, they have incarnate, and they have incarnate spirit attachments with them. Some of them are not verbal. You can actually communicate them spiritually and calm them down. You're blessing them, you're healing them, they're growing, you know, their verbal skills are growing. Of course, with their teachers, their occupational therapists and the speech therapists and all the people that they work with, they're all, you know, all together, you know,
So you're talking about like special children.
Special needs children. Right, because they're misunderstood. A lot of people can't verbally communicate with them. But I'm on the, God gave me that gift of working with these children, and also being able, my livelihood is attached to that too, so that if I chose to actually do all those pro bono assignments, I can. And that's the difference.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
But you have to also, like you said, you put out money to get what you have going for you. So, I mean, just like a person goes to college, pays their tuition, and then becomes whatever, an accountant, a doctor, a nurse,
Right.
whatever,
I always say, it's like,
and they have to get
I
paid.
already got my PhD in spirituality. We've learned everything. We had to learn about all the different religions and how they operated and what they believed in and what their limitations were, and how, you know, there's so much going on. You know, so you were constantly pensive and learning, and the Holy Spirit brings you all this information. They're like, okay, learn this now, and learn this now, and work with this type of people. At one point, I had a lot of people that were coming to me that were actually energy healers who were blocked because at some point through the power of meditation and putting their hands on so many different people, they actually, their chakras were off balance, and they had spirit attachments with them. So, you know, here I am, you know, they come to see me, I'll, you know, take care of, remove the spirit attachments, take care of some of whatever issues that they do have, give them some validation, give them some guidance on what their next step is supposed to be. And you know, that worked out fine.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
good.
Yeah, so it's like there's nothing or no situation that we haven't confronted with. I mean, I'm also a demonologist.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
Oh, really? Well,
That is not my favorite job. When I say
Yeah.
that to people, they back up like 14 steps, and I'm like, that's okay. You know, but you don't tell
no,
but
I
people
understand.
need to know that we are here.
There are bad spirits.
Right, we're here to help them. Now, I remember when I had a haunting, and I went to the church, and I asked the priest to come and bless my house, and he said, do 2 Hail Marys and come to confession. I said, how's that going to help me? You know, and from that point on, I was like, you know what? I was like, I will help anyone who has a problem with this. So God gave me the armor of light. He appointed me and anointed me, and he said, go out and do your work, and that's exactly what we do.
That's good. That's good.
With no fear.
Yes.
You know, that doesn't, you know, there are times where I'm like, oh my God, how did I get involved in this? You know?
Lisa has a question. Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to know, in regard to healing, can you heal somebody who maybe doesn't believe in the process, or do you need somebody who...
Well, we have a saying, we are called to love very tenderly. So you're very soft and gentle. I've had plenty of people that are so afraid to actually say that they've gone through so many things, and they're like, they're very hesitant, and very gently you broach subjects with them, and then they open up and they understand how gentle and loving, you know, how gentle and loving that you are, and what you kind of like, God is light, you know, sparking the light in their mind, igniting in their heart. And then by you explaining certain things to them and spending some time with them, they come to understand that there's no power to hurt. God is the one and only power, and they have that power within them. And then that strengthens their resolve. And then they start touching other people's lives because you gave them tools and components to actually harness their energy and have a better understanding about who they are and have a stronger sense of faith. And then they go on, you know, that's exactly what you want. You want them to go on and touch someone else's life. And that's the most rewarding, and, you know, that rewarding part of actually doing this is like when you watch other people, you know, use your words and say the things that you say and feel very touched and blessed. And I always tell them, bless everyone. Send them love and goodwill. and never curse. It's like, that's the only way. Send them the pink light of Archangel Shamuel. He's always the one that, you know, well, that's what I send to them, you know, during the process. And I give them those tools and the rays of light to actually, and once they start to invoke those lights and those energies, they start to spiritually awaken, and then they pass on the words and become, you know, insight, give insight to other people.
From non-believers, they become believers. You
Yeah.
know? But and I also could add to that with Reiki, I mean, if a person is not well and they feel they need healing, but they really don't believe it's going to work, it's okay, because the Reiki will still work, even if they don't believe it. If they allow it in, it'll work.
Right. Well, we have to remember, every healing, no matter what the complexities, they're always one, and God says one and the same. You deliver it with love and compassion, and know that it's done.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep, that's it.
And what about exorcisms? Did you ever have to perform anything?
Oh my, quite a few times. I call them extrications, and I call house cleansings house blessings, because you want to put a positive connotation on things, believe me. Yeah, I've done quite a few, and you know, those people are relieved. They're living a wonderful life. It was destroying their family, their values, their finances, everything that a person could possibly have. It was being destroyed. And you go in, you take care of the malevolence. It's not always demonic. Sometimes it's like groups of malevolent spirits that don't
Or
want,
tricksters and jokesters.
I run into a few of those, but
Well, they say
I
that.
call them impish.
Yeah.
My impish spirits. I call them relentless vagrants. I'm like, oh, bother somebody else.
Well, yeah, because they say that if whatever kind of personality you had here, after you're on the other side, you'll retain that personality. And
Oh, absolutely.
and if you were a jokester and a trickster and whatnot over there, you'll do the same over here. You'll do the same things over there.
Oh, absolutely. They'll say like some of the craziest things, and you're like, I got to repeat that? Yeah. They're like, yeah, you have to, because then they'll understand that it's really, it's validating that me, because that's something they'll understand.
Right.
I'm like, okay. And then you just deliver it. You deliver the messages.
Is there a practice called a seance? I mean, does that really take place, seances?
I don't practice that at all.
Is that more demonic or
No.
Well, some mediums
Some mediums
use
do.
it and some don't.
You know what? I know in past lives we had some bad experiences with that. So whenever I even see seance, like on TV, like one of those, I start cringing. I'm like, oh my God, I don't like this, you know, because I had a bad experience in another lifetime, and that actually comes through. So it's like between me and that person, it's just me and that person, and that's it. There's nobody else with us. I clear them, like, you know, call Archangel Michael. He comes in, surrounds us in the holiest, purest of energies, and they have nothing to worry about, and I have nothing to worry about. I mean, I'm sitting with that person, and we're taking care of their issues. You're strengthening their resolve. You're giving them insight, and whatever is attached to them is now screaming in your ear. But you know, you're very straightforward. It's like you can't be emotionally compromised ever, and that's, you know, it's kind of like walking through a fire and not getting burned. But that's because, you know, it takes a lot of practice to do that. You know, it doesn't happen like that. You have to be anointed to actually, and appointed, I say, anointed and appointed to actually do that job. It's not for everybody.
No, I'll bet it's not.
No.
And one last question. Do you both ever experience any spirits that have crossed themselves over, you know, killed themselves?
Oh my goodness, I have dozens and dozens and dozens.
And whatever happens, a lot of people say that those spirits who commit suicide go to a bad place, and they're really, really. But I've
not
heard
true.
of people that have
I've
that
heard, you
are in a
know,
good place.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? I've come across people that had spirit attachments, like their best friend hung himself, and I'll pick up on it. I'll say, John is here, he hung himself. But his energy is different because he didn't go into the light. So being able to discern energy, it's like the energy of the angel is much lighter. The energy of a spiritual loved one connecting to you is a different energy. The energy of spirits that are in between the realms is completely different. The energy of Satan's minions is much heavier. So you can discern it. But when someone hasn't gone into the light, say they committed suicide, and they attach themselves to someone, that happens all the time, a best friends, and they walk around with them. And they actually hold, they keep a heavy weight on them because they're actually trying to send messages, but that person can't hear them because they're not clairvoyant. And then, they'll come to me and I'll say, they'll come to me. Sometimes I walk right up to them and I'll say, I'll start a conversation. I'll say, you have somebody with John with this, so why don't you come and see me one day? And they will come, and then we'll sit and we'll talk. And then I'll say, John is here, and I say, he committed suicide, and, oh my God, and, they'll start to cry, They're like, yeah, and that spirit will say, I said, I'll start talking about forgiveness. I said, you must forgive yourself, and forgive this, and forgive that. They're listening. I said, it's going to be okay. The angels are going to come and open the vortex of light, and you're going to be embraced by God, and you can go up. And then, you'll open the vortex of light, and poof, there they go. And then, at some point, they'll come back, and they'll tell you, you know what, the angels, I'm in a healing program. I'm on a horse ranch. And,
horse ranch?
Yeah, I was like, I got my cowboy boots on, and I'm laughing because, that's their healing. They'll have some arrangement where their healing is about going to another plane and being on a horse ranch and kicking his boots up. It's something he always wanted to do in life. It's actually healing for them. Things like that. It's very funny. Everybody has a different experience. Every person that comes through has something else and some different experience to bring to you.
I guess, well, everybody's life is different, right? So
Absolutely.
it would be, make sense.
Yeah.
That would be it.
Sometimes I get young, parents come to me and their child overdosed, and they want to come through, and the first thing they say is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it to happen. I'm coming back. I'm going to come back as so-and-so's son. And I'll be, okay. And then they'll tell their parent about all the things that they're doing. And they're like, you know what I'm doing now? You would be proud of me. You couldn't be proud of me in my life because all I did was screw up. But you could be proud of me now because now, I'm actually a spirit guide.
Doing something.
And I'm helping, I'm protecting these young kids from not ODing. And that's my job, Mom, and that's my job, and you should be proud of that because that's what they died from. And God said, you know what, you want to help? This is your job.
Make up for what you did.
You want to make up for what you did. Now be an advocate for these kids that are taking drugs and they don't want to OD.
Well,
and
everybody does have
ODing.
a job on the other side, I
Oh,
understand.
absolutely.
We all
And then-
we continue to work and do things
Right, and
to
then,
help humanity.
Right, then, even so, that child, now we're talking about a 22 or 23-year-old, and I mean, it's very sad. The parent is brokenhearted. And, I'll say to them, what he wants you to do? He wants you to join a grief council group. And he said, one day you're going to be the president of that grief council group. And then, like a year later, they'll call me back and say, yeah, I'm the president of the grief council group now.
Wow.
And I feel so much better. And I know that he's with me. And, we're doing this and we're doing that. And we opened this program and did that program. And that's the most enriching part of it, is that you're able, to bring healing. That's a healing for them, for the parent,
Yeah.
and for the spiritual loved one as well. So like I said, everybody brings a different experience.
Generally speaking now, though, what would you tell our audience about, if you want to develop your intuition? What should there be any kind of exercises or practices that they should do?
Oh, absolutely. There's plenty
meditations, whatever.
Right. There's plenty of books out there. Okay, first we have to resolve whatever issues they have. If they're having paranormal issues, and they need to discern them. Okay, so we take care of those issues. And then all of a sudden, their gifts start coming out. It's like, they'll sit with you, and all of a sudden, I see their soul like floating up in the air, and I'm like, come back down. You're back in the body. And that means that they're usually ready to actually receive the intuitiveness. It's like, their angels are there. Everybody's on cue. They know, they know a lot about. They have a strong sense of faith, and their intuition. They're ready to actually understand how to discern the intuition, because a lot of people don't trust their own instincts. They hear something, but they don't follow it.
Well, they're not sure.
Right, they're not sure. So, developing that intuition is part of the process. Like I said, it's always, always, always an effort of the will. Everything is an effort of the will. You know, you give your free will, you give your will to God, and you ask for an earnest quest for truth, and He's going to show you the truth. And before you know it, their gifts start to open up, their intuition starts flowing through. You know what? Even if they're not going to come into the service of man, of humanity, like we're here to serve humanity, you know, even if they help themselves and help their children, and they have a greater understanding, and it just brings them a sense of calm and peace within themselves, knowing that they can, you know, call to their angels, and they'll hear the answers to whatever the questions are and whatever their problems are. So that's like one of the most important things. And you know, do you have a special method that you like to? And also you give them information, reading information, because now that information, if they read it a month ago or a month before that, it wouldn't resonate with them. But now if they start to read it, it has a duplistic meaning, and they understand the meaning behind the words. So then they'll start practicing, you know, little visual things and having a greater understanding. It's like they start to practice it. You know, it's like a muscle. You got to flex it.
Right.
You know.
Well, there are often times like you're right about that, because sometimes, like say I'm watching television, and some of these programs might pose a question. So, you know, not anything really important, but you know, on some of the shows they'll say, you know, what's the answer to this question? Give you three possible answers, and I'll sit there and I'll say, it's B, and just from intuition, because I don't have any idea of what the answer might be, but I'll say my feeling tells me it's this, and then when the program goes out to commercial and they come back and they flash it up again and they answer the question, and very often I was right.
Of course, right. That's trusting your intuition.
Yeah.
So now, take that intuition and be able to put it into practice.
Into practice, into real life things.
Into real life issues. That's the pragmatics of the counseling part that we do. It's like God is He's the one who's teaching you the logistics, the dynamics, the pragmatics. And it's through all these people. It's like trusting what they're saying to you. Because a lot of times I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But they're like, that's not you just deliver it. This is what you do. This is how you're going to solve the solution. Remember, Father always says there's only one problem and there's only one solution, and He's the one who's omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. So there's always a resolution to those problems, and trusting your intuition, like I said, it's the small, still voice that you hear from your angels. I always say that there's so many angels, you know, depending on what job you do, you have that many, you know, sometimes some people have 2 angels, 3 angels. Once you can give them their names, a lot of people say, well, what's my guardian angel's name? And I'll say, Sienna, or, you know, whatever it is. And it brings them such a comfort knowing that, you know. I was like, if you need something, I said, when you pray to God, pray to the Christ, pray to the Holy Spirit. The angels are part of the Holy Spirit. And then ask your angels for, you know, tell them what you need and ask them for guidance. And they'll answer you. They'll give it to you in signs sometimes. License plates, there's so many different ways that they do it. To me, I got a lot of signs and license plates. That's how it started.
Yeah, I see a lot too. When I see like the last 4 digits of a old phone number I had when I was a kid, I'll feel that my parents are around. You know what I mean?
Right,
you know,
exactly.
like
That's exactly how they do that. I'll never forget the first time I experienced that. I was watching television, and all of a sudden I hear. Turn around, and I turned around, and the television, the lotto numbers came out, and they were 8669. I'll never forget. I said, hey, those are the last digits of my cousin's phone number. All right, what am I going to do with that? Big deal, you know? So
maybe it means
it just
you should
meant
call
something.
your cousin.
Right. 10 minutes later, I'm in my car, and all of a sudden, a big beam of light comes down from the car in front of me, and I look, and there it is again, the license plate 8669. So I said, okay, you know, that was in the beginning when I just started learning. They were just starting me to start sending me those kind of messages. Right. And it turned out that she was, you know, when I called her up, I said, is anything going on? She's like, oh, I was just going to call you. She's like, guess what? I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh, great.
So you were being told that she had news. Right. And you should talk to her.
Exactly. Right, so that's a beautiful thing. So it's like trusting that intuition, the signs.
So Michael is back with another question, Michael.
Hi, Josephine. I'm back. Hi, Josephine. You mentioned God a few times during this interview, and you said that God has given you this gift to heal people. Did you mention that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. why does God have to go through a medium? Why does he just go directly? Why does he have to go through a middleman?
That is a good question.
guess to give us the
I've heard
experience,
this on radio. I've heard it's not original, but that's certainly an argument. Why does
Well-
he have to go through you? Okay.
Because-
Why does he have to go through an evangelist that's on television that's making millions of dollars? Why doesn't he just do it directly?
To each and every one of us.
Yeah.
We walk
People
born
don't
from
listen
his light.
directly.
They don't listen. But if he wants to heal someone, why does he have to go through you first, through a middleman?
That's a good question.
Well, I would
Okay.
think myself, actually, because God gives us all jobs to do, and he says, all right, here, do this job. You
Right,
know,
this is your
So-
position.
this is what you heard, this is what I want you to
Well,
do.
you know what? Having a person in physical form, in the flesh, with a voice that is coming, that he's talking through, is sometimes that's what people need. Now, if a booming voice came to you from
Nowhere.
up ahead above
Right,
and said,
and it's disembodied.
right,
Well, so are you healing the person, or is God healing the
well,
person?
listen, the Father dwelleth within all of us, and you're healing yourself, truly.
You're healing yourself.
Yes,
Okay.
you are. Everyone heals themselves.
So I still didn't, I don't mean to be disrespectful,
No,
but
certainly not.
I don't think I got a big clarification of that answer that I asked you. Why does he have to go through you as a middleman? Okay.
We're not. I wouldn't consider us the middleman.
Okay. A medium. Medium
Medium.
is someone that A to C has to go through B first. No?
Well, that's like I said, because people need
Yeah.
to wipe you. They need someone in front of them in a physical body.
Yeah, they're not just gonna listen to a disembodied voice, they'll be scared.
Right.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
Who is projecting the love and the tenderness of the Holy Father. Remember, we're called to serve one another and walk humbly with God. When you understand that God dwells in you and God dwells in you, you're touching one. We're all brothers and sisters from the same light,
And he works through us.
and He works through all of us. You know what? I always say to everyone, I have to thank every single person that came to me, because not only was I healing them, but they were healing me.
Oh, yeah, well, just like when you're giving healing, you're actually receiving it
Right.
as well.
Giving precedes receiving. Your gifts to others precedes God's gifts to you.
Yeah.
And that's what I
And
always
God
believe.
uses us to help each other because that's what he put us here for. He put us on this earth to help each other, to be there when someone is in need.
Okay.
Right. That's the love and compassion that we have to have for one another.
And
that we have for one another.
he could probably just wave his hand and everything will be just fine. But he doesn't do that because he gave us all free will. And using that free will, he expects us to use it to do the good. And he
Absolutely.
gives us the push to do it, and he gives us the power to do it.
Right.
Okay, so he created the good, but didn't he also create the evil?
Well, he didn't
No?
create the evil, he
didn't?
allowed it.
He allowed the evil, okay. He allowed sickness also then.
Exactly. Anything bad that happens, God is not creating and God is not causing. He is allowing.
He's not creating?
He's not creating the bad stuff and he's not causing it, but he's allowing it.
Right, so who created the bad stuff?
I guess you might as well say what? The devil?
That's mortal thinking.
That's
Right,
mortal
so-
thinking.
It is mortal
So
thinking.
are you considered a medium? You call yourself a medium then? Do you believe in the devil then?
Do I believe in? Yeah, I've gone
Okay.
to battle with him. I have his scars.
You do? Okay. All right, I don't want to take up any, thank you very much. Okay.
Well, the thing is, I don't like. He has no power, and that's what we're here to remind everyone. It's like if you believe in the good, and people ask all the questions about spirits, and I said, you know what? Let me teach you about God and the angels, as opposed to giving you the other spectrum.
The
you know.
devil only has as much power as you will give him.
He has none.
If,
In my eyes.
Well, in my eyes, he's got none also, because that's why I don't let him bother me. But
Right.
there are people who do believe and do give him, give the devil his due, for lack of a better statement.
Well, right. He's
You
got
know,
his minions. And
But I think that if you shut him out and tell him, look, get thee behind, I'm not listening to you, and
Right.
you do diminish anything that he does have or is able to
Absolutely. And you send love and goodwill, and that forms the, that's what forms the weapon against him.
do. Right.
Right. That's the whole point.
That's
but,
it.
It takes a lot for people to get to that point. Especially when you do, the certain work that we do, it's like if you didn't have a full armor and have been through all those experiences, you can see them, you can feel them, you can smell them. They can't hide from you, and they don't like me. And they will take any opportunity to combat.
Uh-huh. Oh, we have Tommy has a
Mr.
question.
Tom's on
Go ahead.
How you doing, Josephine?
Hi, Tommy.
Just to broach that question that Mike asked you before, okay? When God created man, okay, he created the man to be his mirror image on earth.
Yes, we
all
were all
right?
perfect.
He placed in all of his creation the spark of God. That's the piece of God that is in all of us. The question was, why doesn't he do the healings himself? Well, he does, but he uses his children to heal each other because that's the message of love. And
Right.
without the message of love, you couldn't do any healing. Your free will is what causes all the strife in this world. It's your free will. Free will has caused denominations. God didn't create Catholics. He didn't create Jews. He created man. Man made the divisions in this world. All the problems of wars are man's ego because man lives by his five senses and not his higher self. So to learn that lesson, that you are a piece of God and you're no more not a medium than she is. We are all God's vessel. God works through each of us to help each other out. Without that, okay, then we would just be a bunch of heathens. And that's what you have around this world, people who don't recognize that through love, they can solve all the problems of this world. But they choose to use their free will
Right.
and cause evil. As far as the devil is concerned, I like to look at it this way. A person who is evil is far away from God. The closer you come to God, the closer you come to goodness. Simple as that. Moving away from God is turning to evil and turning to darkness. Be the light of this world that God meant you to be. That's all I have to say. And you're very, very
That's right. And
good
sometimes they
intuitive.
need people like us to help them come out of the darkness and reach to the light. And you are the light for them.
Well, that's what the problem is. A lot of people think that people who, because they see like something on TV and this, that, the other, or like Mike was mentioning before, a televangelist, all right? They're all a part of it. But is ego in it? Sometimes yes. Because these people, have gifts, but they use the gifts for profit.
Right.
Okay, rather than use your gift. I believe that when you are given a gift, like I have my own gift, okay, that you use it and you do not profit from it, because why are you doing God's work and putting a dollar sign on it? That's my personal belief, and that's how I feel about it.
But you also have to remember, it's just a bartering tool, and he says it means nothing.
That's right.
It is nothing.
That's
It's
right.
just a tool.
Okay. All right, well, I'll be stepping out from here now. You can wrap it up.
Okay,
Well,
thank you
for
Tommy.
your beautiful words.
And insight, yes, yes. Well, that's the thing. Even, as Tommy was saying, we're here to help each other. We're here to use our gifts to help each other.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about. And that's what life is all about, because it is neither, it's not here is where it's at. It's in the next world when we go to see God. That's where it's at.
He wants us to, he would like us to develop a perfect love, a perfect poise, a perfect power.
Yeah.
That's what he wants us to develop, and understand that all of us have the same power within us. It's a matter of like I always say, it's always the effort of the will, choosing to do right. But you know what? There's plenty of people in this world, okay, especially say you got into a car accident, all of a sudden, you have a backache, and all of a sudden the doctor gave you oxycodone, and then you get hooked on it, and your life starts falling to pieces, and your auric field is all, the integrity is
Messed up.
yeah, and the incarnate, the darker spirits are attached to you, and now they're gonna come into your mind, and they're gonna wreak havoc. You need somebody to come and help you,
Set you
so
straight.
they can see the light of day.
Right.
They're never going to see the light of day when they have all this stuff going on. So once you remove the disincarnated spirits and you tell that person they can be helped and their life is worthy and there's good things to come for them, and you strengthen their resolve, they decide to, receive help, go to rehab, take care of themselves, and then lead a beautiful life. But there needs to be, someone has to help them. That's why we're here, to serve one another and walk humbly with God.
That's right, we are. And on that note, we'll close because it is a good note to close on, that we are here to help each other and make sure that, that we're all in God's grace. In the meantime, thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
It was a
thank you,
very
thank you.
interesting conversation.
Wonderful.
And, I hope that, that everything goes well for you as far as your work is concerned.
Thank you.
And
we use a lot of help.
don't we all? Don't we all? Anyway, but take care, everybody.
Well, like I said, nothing has enriched your life more. Nothing has enriched my life more. And as long as we spark the light, they spark the light is sparked in people, and it's, ignites in their heart, and they understand that they're loved.
That's right.
And there is always assistance, and their
That's it.
mistakes can be worked out, and everything can be resolved.
Exactly.
And they can live a wonderful life.
That's all we need.
That's all we need to know.
Thank you and good night.